Namaskar. Good evening to one and all. I'm Sarita Mishra, an Odissi dancer. Today I'm here to have a talk with Kuchipudi exponent Srimati Deepa Sashindran. And this is as a part of Navapallava series of Let's Talk. Srimati Sashindran is an exponent of Kuchipudi and she's a great supporter of Navapallava. Navapallava, a beautiful movement, a cause that started by Sri Ashok Jain against the pay and perform practice. This is a festival which is for young dancers who are talented, dynamic, and looking for the right platform and right stage. With Ashok Jain, a team of artists work for Navapallava. As a part of Navapallava team, I welcome you all to our today's talk session with Srimati Deepa Sashindran. Namaste, Deepaji.
Namaste, Sarita.
Welcome to our talk today. And Deepa Sashindran ji, she is a very, very well-known figure in not only in Bangalore, but in the field of Kuchipudi and in the field of art. She is a person who has a long journey of practicing Kuchipudi for 4 decades. Wonderful to know her as a person too, who is so humble and so friendly and so approachable always. She is a performer, a teacher who has extensively shared her art with large number of students all over the globe. She is a versatile person, I would say, who holds 2 careers, professional careers parallelly. I can keep on going. So let's hear from Deepa Didi. Didi, I would like to know your brief journey as a practitioner of Kuchipudi.
Thank you, Sarita. And it's like homecoming, Navapallava. I'm part of Navapallava team, and it's so happy that I'm getting this opportunity to share my journey as well.
Thank you so much for a great supporter of Navapallava.
That's my pleasure. Okay. Actually, my journey, just like any other artist, I started off at the age of 5, formally learning first with Bharatanatyam. Prior to that, just like everybody, every other artist, my parents also saw the interest in me, that rhythm sense and all that, because I used to be part of many community programs. And so I used to be included in the folk dance and things like that. So at the age of 3.5, 4 is what I recollect parents telling me. And so they felt that, I should be starting very structured and formally an art form, basically because my mother is actually a Mohiniyattam dancer. She has learned Mohiniyattam in her childhood in Kerala. In Calicut, and then she moved to Bangalore. I think at the age of 16, she relocated to Bangalore, and I was born and raised here in Bangalore. So there was this institute, Padmavati Kalaniketan, which was just about 2 roads away, nearest closest institution, and so I was enrolled there for Bharatanatyam, and my first guru was Srimati Kalamandalam Usha Datar. And it was also her time, ironically, that she also started to teach. So I was that first batches of students of hers, and then in the same institute at the age of 8, renowned Kuchipudi exponent Guru Manju Bhargavi started her Kuchipudi classes in the same institution. So basically, you're too young to even understand the difference between Kuchipudi and Bharatanatyam. And it was actually, it was my mother's interest, because, of course, I have seen when I was young, I was also taken to this movie, Shankarabharanam, of my guru, Manju Bhargavi. And it was such an iconic movie where Kuchipudi is the main, element of the whole movie. So such a revered personality comes and starts Kuchipudi classes in the institution. I think maybe it was my destiny that I was in that same institution, and I got enrolled for Kuchipudi classes, and at the age of 8, as her first batch of students. And then the journey continued. I used to attend both Bharatanatyam and Kuchipudi classes. So it used to be like 3 days Bharatanatyam, 3 days Kuchipudi. So throughout the week, I used to dance.
Blessed are those who get this opportunity, actually.
And somehow, I used to be good at both. I used to be kind of very disciplined and very quiet child I was, and then it so happened then Guru Kalam Usha Datar ma'am moved away from that institute. And then another Guru, Guru Srimad Savitri, Dr. Savitri Ramaya, she came and started Bharatanatyam there. Then I continued my Bharatanatyam with her. So maybe when I was 10, 11 or age, in that age, I started performing as well. It so happened that I used to be the co-artist of my guru, Manju Bhargavi. Earlier, it used to be like 2.5 or 3 hours concert, solo concerts.
Yes, yes.
Okay, and then she has to, change over her costumes and all that. So during that time is when I used to perform. So I have traveled extensively with my guru, and I've performed in the best of platforms, and I've gone to the best of locations, and have got the best of exposure as during my childhood. And parallelly, parallelly I used to also perform Bharatanatyam along with Guru Savitri Ramaya. It so happened that one time the date got clashed. I mean, it was like first Savitri Ramaya asked me to perform for Bharatanatyam. So I was preparing for that. That is when my Guru Manju Bhargavi also said that there is a program, you have to join me. I was in a fix actually as to how do, and it is not like these days, you maintain two kinds of phases with your students. You are friendly with them, same time you are very strict. But my relationship with my guru was like, yes boss, no looking up also, it is like whatever they command, you do. And I would never even ask her back any questions, or just command and then I do it. And also it was like she would tell me that, okay, there's a program the day after tomorrow. So tomorrow come over for rehearsal. And then I go finish the rehearsal. Next same day travel. That is when I would get to know which location I'm going. I wouldn't even know where the program is, like that. You just go, perform and come back. So that used to be the scenario. So I was literally quite scared to inform her that, I've already committed to a Bharatanatyam program. So then I told Guru Savitri Ramaya that Manju, I would say Manju Akka also was, wants me to join her. She said, okay, fine, I will talk to her. And then Savitri Akka spoke to Manju Akka, and she said, this is the son. So then it was quite, I finished my Bharatanatyam program and all. And then next class, when I went to Kuchipudi class, she first made me stand and said, today you decide whether you want to pursue Bharatanatyam or Kuchipudi. You can't do both at the same time. And you have to master one. One whole lifetime is not enough to master a style. How can you manage both? So I said, okay. Then I spoke to Savitri Akka and I told her that, this is the thing. So I would
So
want
your
to.
heart was more towards Kuchipudi,
Yes, yes, of course.
you realized. Okay.
Then I asked her if I can continue Kuchipudi. She said, please go ahead. In any case, she was planning to relocate to Delhi. So I think this would be the right. I think the destiny has paved your way towards Kuchipudi. So you continue with that. So then on, I've been like from the age of 12, 8 but 12 onwards, fully continuously into Kuchipudi itself.
So
And
Didi,
then,
yeah, as you said, it gives me a question actually. Sorry to interrupt you, but that question will miss out otherwise. What do you think? Which kind of a mentorship is good for a student who comes to learn? Uh, a, a teacher who only commands, or a teacher who is friendly and at the same time understand the plight of the student and teach with compassion? How do you, as a teacher, how do you feel about it?
okay, going by my experience with my guru, basically because see, I was a very shy student and I used to not talk much and I had more observation and listening skills. So my guru also has a humorous side to her. I have seen that and all that, but still, you have the inhibitions to approach and talk to her. In a friendly manner. So you always keep that distance with the guru. So basically, because she was a very good taskmaster, I mean, I would say all the discipline, hard work that I feel that came along with my personality is basically because of the tutelage that I've had with a person of her stature, because she used to be very punctual to the core that if there is a class at 7 a.m. in the morning, I have to be there 10 minutes earlier, else the door is not opened. So it taught me punctuality. So wherever I go, I should be on time. And then the discipline, which means she will teach you once or twice a new things in the class. And obviously today's generation has a lot more technology. They can record in a mobile, go back and revise, but for us it was used to be more with memory.
Yes,
Oh,
and I
you
think that was absolutely brilliant to remember it in your hard drive. I mean,
correct.
I just love that.
Correct. And then you grasp it, you soak in, and then you go prepared for the next class so that you don't get that, the scoldings rather, you feel, no, I should not be noted for that. So I used to prepare and go, so not to make her angry. Or waste her time, so I used to go prepare and ensure that, okay, today if I have not got any scoldings from her, that means my day was good.
Yeah.
So I used to be that kind of a student. So what she tells me, I used to do. That is the thing. So, but
Do you
today,
support that kind of a mentorship, or
uh, see, you need that method for that kind of students, I would say. I mean, the sense who require
yes,
it. It's not that you apply it to every other student. Each students need a different way of, approach. Some need some little strictness. Some are, no, you don't have to be strict because they would do their homework and come over. So you can apply at different things. But then of course, going by my guru's stature, because she was such a busy artist. Every alternate day there are programs, then so many commitments and schedules and all that. So we have to understand that pace of hers and move along. So that is also one way of cultivating your your persona and your thought process and things like that. So that used to be the kind of tutelage that I've had. And I would say that at the age of 19 is when she did my Arangetram as her first disciple. So from the age of 8 to 19, at the age of 19 is when she was not in a hurry to expose me and kind of put me on stage
bring
early.
you to the limelight.
she felt that, okay, whatever is the duration, it has to be like, though I have done a number of programs with her in multiple stages and things like that, it was like debut performance, it has to be your best time. And for that, even though years and years you are almost, every daily you're practicing, that was the kind. But still, for the Arangetram, it used to be like 3 months. She kept away all her commitments. And from morning 7 to evening 7 used to be the practice session. Uh,
Wow.
and I earlier Arangetrams used to be 3 hours, like 1.5 hours, then a break, and then 1.5 hours. That used to be the kind of a thing. So you have to be equipped to perform 3 hours without any fatigue. So I was trained in that kind of thing, and she will not compromise. And what the way her guru, the renowned guru, late Guru Vempati Chinnasatyam, the way he has choreographed, it has to be the way I have to present. No changes in terms of that. And she's known for her devotion towards her guru. So that used to be the kind of tutelage that I've
So
had.
basically, you have followed the uh, parampara and the being a modern girl, you have followed all the traditional side of a art field and the art form, which is so good to know.
Basically, you know
Then
what?
Didi,
Tradition has enhanced your positivity in your life. Okay, so why not implement that? There is nothing wrong in
absolutely,
it. Basically,
absolutely,
because if you say my existence today is, I can owe it to my guru, basically, because whatever scenarios that I went through when I moved into corporate, that was all useful skills. These were my life skills, actually speaking. Dance is basically a life skill for you. So that you can apply it very nicely into your any other profession. Even if you don't take dance as a profession, any other profession, these skills will come into effect.
absolutely. So
And
Didi, like you had a training, such a hard training from your guru. So if I look at your journey as a teacher, uh, I would definitely like to know, and our viewers would definitely like to know that what is your journey as a teacher? How many students have been learning with you, and how are you as a teacher?
yeah, okay. Um, Basically, I had my first student at the age of 16.
Oh,
um, it was actually my neighbor's kid, and their parents was like, okay, can you please teach my daughter? And that's how I started at the age of 16 with her, and I used to choreograph for her small, the sun for her schools and all that. And also, as I said, this Padmavati Kalaniketan was run by Srimati Vijayaveni. She was also a teacher in I see my father was working in Bharat Electronics, so we have the same, I was born in BL hospital. So we were in the same community of that public sector, this one, so the schools, college, everything is in the campus itself. So she was a teacher in this BL school, and she was such a she's a patron of art that she used to bring Kuchipudi to the schools. See the son, the thought process then. Uh, and she used to ask me to choreograph proper. It was not like something school program. No, she wanted a proper like a dance drama. This one, so they used to record the music. They used to write the lyrics, record the music, everything, and then ask me to choreograph. So like that, I've done many school productions like that, actually, when I was young, maybe 16, 17, that time. And after my Arangetram, my guru asked me to teach in her institution here for almost like 8 years. I've taught in the institution. So though I was young in age, I used to have older students who were married, who had kids, and people, even artists who were in the crossroads, who were, wanting to take up Kuchipudi as a profession and all that. So I've handled different kinds of students when I was young itself. And maybe that teaching also helped me to, retain whatever I have learned in my memory. So because your teaching actually helps you to remember and memorize, keep that memory and the concentration and all that intact. So that way I feel even today that experience has helped me, to what I did what I learned at the age of 8 or 9, I still remember those things. So that's how the whole the sun started. And of course, post I getting I did my 5 years law, and then I did my post graduation in industrial relations and personal management, and then got campus picked for a company called, it was a project of NDDB, National Dairy Development Board. I got in the company called Karnataka Oil Federation. So I was there, and but still when I was working, I used to never miss dance classes or teaching. I used to manage it. Saturday, Sunday
Continue it.
used to be like full time teaching and all that. So I've
How
never
do
missed.
you how do you balance it? I mean, that's a full-fledged career in itself, and dance, again, such a demanding profession, physically, emotionally, and from financially, it's a very, very demanding profession. So how do you balance? I mean, what is your support system? Do you have a strong support system like that? And you are, of course, a mother of two kids. Who are doing so well in life. So, how do you balance? I mean, I'm very curious to know.
Yeah, basically, I said, I was a very calm and balanced kid. So, and my parents were like, my father was, ardent fan of dance, so he is the person who used to accompany me outstations wherever, for my solo concerts and everything. He used to be with me, and they have, my parents have, like, I should say, they have catapulted me to a professional side of dance. And it was like, my dad had retired. That's when I did my Rangetram. And he used his savings for my Rangetram. But savings in the sense, I should mention here, that the generosity of my Guru. She has not taken a single penny for my Rangetram. Okay.
Wow.
And she has taught me selflessly, and I would say with full giving. I would say that is the kind of person. But what people think outside is different, perspective. It's all perspectives that you have. But actually, if you know the person well, she's a very giving person and a generous guru that I have had, especially with my art. She has never compromised on it. So so it came to a stage where, my father had retired, and I had an elder brother. He was 28, and that is when he passed away in a drowning incident. So I was in my fourth year law. That's when I was. So then my parents decided, okay, I should be getting married, and then continue with whatever I need to do. So the next year, that is when I was in fifth year, was when it was a 5 years law course. So when I was in the fifth year, I got married. And then my parents and my husband, we decided, okay, practicing law will take a little, you need time and support and, family support and things like that. But it was inevitable that I have to work. And at the same time, my father gave me an advice that it is always good to pursue your interest, with your own financial, support. It need not be that like how your parents have supported. You should expect that kind of a support from your in-laws and your husband, financial support, what I mean to say. So it is not good to do that. So that advice I took it very seriously. So which is
And
why,
I think that that is a brilliant piece of advice from a father to a daughter. And I'm sure if every father gives this kind of advice to their daughters, then our world will be a different world,
now the
isn't it?
times have changed. Now
Yes.
youngsters are very, they can balance. You'll find them. I mean, these days generation are really good. So at my point in that point in time, of course, my both my husband and my in-laws and my parents were very broad-minded and future, kind of a person. So that is why I could pursue both of them without any kind of disturbances. Of course, when I had my first son, that is when I took a break, about 2 years break. But still, look at the commitments that I've learned from my guru. If you have committed to something, a program, whatever is the this one, you have to perform it. And the same way my father used to tell me, even if you hear that I have passed away, you must finish that program and then come. Don't leave it midway. And this, that should be the commitment of an artist. So that is to be the kind of thought process. So and when I was like, after my son was born, I think when he was just about after completion of 3 months, the baby was just 3 months baby. I did my Doordarshan recording.
Wow.
I practiced and I
I mean,
performed
incredible that is.
recording that time. I remember that listen. And of course, post that, I took a break for about 2 years, basically because it was the same time where my guru also had her kid and kids, and then both of us took a break, basically. So then again we got back after a 2 year, 2 or 3 years. Yeah, we again got back, and then we practiced and we came back to shape, and then we were performing together. So course that, then again when I had my daughter, I again took a break 2 years and then again got back. So there was a breaks in between, but then I had never stopped teaching. I just took breaks for my performances, so that it used to be too much of things going on. So uh, you have to balance. At some point, it's good to take a step back and then get into it. You can come out with fresh perspectives. And which is why when I worked in corporates, how this, as I said, the dance is a life skill which comes into the sun. It has helped me to stand apart as a unique person, in the organizations. So when I made my entry into software industry, there was this company called Saskin, where I was inducted as part of the HR human resource team. And I had a project to handle for a company, Kyocera. Saskin is actually called as a ODC, the Offshore Development Center. So you will have all companies coming there, and then they move out and start as an independent entity. So when they come into India, this is where they'll first get in. And then, so I was part of that Kyocera project, and I finished their activities much before the timelines, and they moved out of the facility also. And it fetched Saskin a huge revenue, because the contract is still in place, but the work is done, but still they would be paid. So I was like noted for my work there. And then I moved to another project. That is when I got an invitation to attend the first Kuchipudi conference in Houston, America. So you just started your career at that point in time. So it is like you have to pay for the tickets, and then when you go there, then you get reimbursed. So that time, it was like 70,000 tickets was a little tough, because I was still in the, and I didn't want to depend on my husband and take all that. So I wanted it to be my this one. So that's when I happened to tell my boss. Apparently my boss was a lover of music and dance, because Hari Iyer, he loves South, and it used to be his kind of a schedule, where he comes at 8 o'clock. So I have to be much before that in the office. and then give him the previous day's reports. And then he goes through his mail, listening to Balamurali Krishna's Tillanas. Okay. And in Sasken, it is like, it is like no cabin policy. Everybody are seated in cubicles only, even boss or MD or anybody. That used to be the policy. So I used to sit next to his cubicle. And I used to also listen to the Balamurali Krishna's Tillanas in the morning. And my day begins that way. And so I happened to tell him that, see, like this, I've got an invitation, but then I don't know, I have to raise funds to go there and things like that. And then I was like, oh, okay, what to do? I just kept quiet. After about 2 or 3 weeks, he comes to me and tells me, Deepa, go and collect your air tickets. I was like, what? I said, how come? Okay, this is Sasken sponsoring you for your,
Wow.
and I also get about 25 days leave, and I get to travel. And then, okay, that was a funny incident actually. That was when I realized my passport had only 6 months validity. So I have to
Wow.
again renew my passport. And this is where I thank my good friend Veena Murthy, who helped me to get a visa interview. And because it so happened that we were collaborating on a thing. And when I was at her home, that is when I came back to my place, that is when my dad passed away. So I have a very fresh that incident which I can't forget, because I was there at Veena Murthy's house. And when I came back home, my father had passed away. So that was a very emotional moment at that point in time. So she helped me to get the visa, and then everything worked. See, that's what it happens. If something has to happen, the all universe will work to give unison.
Absolutely.
And my guru said you should do this Tyagaraya's Pancharatna Kirtanam, which is Kriti, which is about 25 minutes. So it is like you need good stamina, and if you have to do very perfectly. So she used to give me everyday practice. Like after work, I go to her place, practice, and then reach home. And then I still had a small baby, I mean, small kid. And then it so happened that I used to, um, I changed his routine because by the time I get home, it is like 10:30, 11. So he goes to bed early by 8:30 and wakes up morning 5 o'clock, so that I can make him do his homework, and then go back, then get finish, and then
Ready
get
for the
back to
school
work.
and all.
That used to be the routine. So even today, my children are also used to that, schedule.
Absolutely. I mean, a dancer needs a supportive parents, a supportive husband, supportive kids, supportive guru, and supportive audience. So a
Correct.
dancer is incomplete without.
And I would say dance is the only thing which gave me that recognition even in corporates. Sasken was a company which was like 4,000, 5,000 employees. And after I came back from US, they asked me to perform for one of their business unit meeting, which was I would say the golden period where they had grossed the highest revenue. So that was attended by like 4,000 people and all, and I get an opportunity to present half an hour. I presented, and the founder comes up and says, Deepa, you are an asset to this company. So that
Wow.
kind of,
It's a
recognition.
boost.
And
Yes, yes,
so even
absolutely.
today, if anybody wants to know about me, Deepa, that Kuchipudi, like that, they recognize me with my art form.
Yes, I mean, it is always beautiful when a person is identified as a dancer, which is her passion.
Correct.
So, so Didi, now I would like to, as you are a huge supporter of Navapallav, so what do you say about this movement and about this cause, which is started by Ashok sir?
Okay. See, basically, how the way I connected with Navapalla was basically because I had similar experiences. Similar experiences in the sense, contradictory to what's happening. So when we were young, we were invited to programs through word of mouth. Okay, so somebody says there's Deepa, who's Guru Manju Bhargavi's student. We get called for the programs. Okay, and there was no pay and perform concept at all. Okay, initially. It used to be like, word of mouth. There's no marketing, there's no Facebook, there's no nothing of that sort. That it's only through word of mouth, and also your reviews that used to come in papers and all that, that used to help you. And we used to be part of like Kannada and culture. I have done n number of programs through Kannada and culture. So the director of Kannada and culture would know, okay, Kuchipudi, we should invite this artist in that kind of thing. And Doordarshan, I've done n number of productions, and Srimati Sharada was a producer then. So I've done quite a lot of programs for Doordarshan. And so that used to be that kind of environment. I have never paid and performed in any programs. At the same time, I am a student of renowned guru like Manju Bhargavi, who already is an internationally acclaimed artist. But my guru had cautioned me, telling me that you will never use my name and get a program. Okay, you have to come up with your own merit. Okay, so that used to be, back of your mind. So you so wherever you want to even go and ask program, you hesitate, because you feel that no, how will they look up to you, or you feel hesitant to do such things. So it used to be that kind of a scenario. And at the same time, I have seen the difficulties of getting into many national level programs and all that, basically because people sitting in the committees shows a lot of biases. There is disparities, so many things for out of which you miss out a lot of programs. I have been such a, like, initially when I was young, Hampi festivals and all, people have question as to how come you can give it to her, what though by age I may be young, but by experience and tutelage and all, learning and all that, I'm like already there. So they were like, all that age factors and so many things. I've lost out many opportunities that way.
So that's
So
how you, that's what motivated you to
yeah, so I felt
join
that
the movement.
today the world has changed. Today's scenarios have changed. A lot of good, talented artists are there. Uh, Actually, I should say supply. There's more supply than demand. So, and really genuine artists are like me. How I hesitate to go and, okay, now after I've been in the corporate, I know how to talk to people, where to approach, and I'm very good at the social media, the all the internet applications, all that. So I know where to how to apply online and things like that. So that is part of the thing. But now these days there are good artists who hesitate to ask for program. Okay, so they would want to they're very happy doing their own thing, and they want merit is the thing. So, and there are other artists who have other artists who has talent, but also the capability of communication, so they can communicate and seek programs. They know the avenues where to look for. There are smarter people, there are some hardworking artists who are not smart enough in
Well,
those
Didi,
things.
I guess that's a part of this art field. I mean, we all go through a lot of time. I also feel that, I felt like a victim, being victimized. And, we all go through, that's a struggle, that if you do not have a godfather in the
Correct.
field, if you
Correct.
don't have plenty of money to pump into the field, even
Correct.
if you
Correct.
have talent, it's a struggle. So yes,
So I
Navapalla
don't
was a
like to
movement
claim
we
myself
started.
that I'm a self-made artist. I have no, as I said, no godfather, godmothers who has even given me a hand to raise up. No, I had to prove myself. So there are, as I said, no, the youngsters who are not, they're very hardworking, very talented, but on top of it, there is a trend of paying and performing, and which is like, okay, you have those trend happening in Chennai for Sabas. And now this private organizers also have started of taking money from the artist and giving them opportunity in the name of exposure, which is utterly wrong. And I'm from a law background, I'm from a corporate background. I know that this is not ethical and righteousness. And and they're exploiting the artists, of their desire to perform and reach things. So which is why I felt this is closer to what I think, my thought
You
process.
relate to it.
Yeah,
Yes.
Navapallava. And then I thought I should be part of it and help whosoever to also, give them that exposure, and also ensure that their talent is also reached to as many platforms as I do. So that was the whole idea of behind Navapala. And thankfully, I have my organization, Kuchipudi Parampara Foundation, which is a non-profit trust, and for the promotion of performing arts.
Art.
So that actually all fell in right time, right place, right thing. So it
As
helped connect.
a member of Navapallav, I remain thankful for your support to Navapallav. And Didi, now as we proceed, I recently read a post which was written by you regarding the copyright issue. And I was quite, not surprised, I would say, but I was little annoyed as well. I mean, not with your post, but with the concept of some people, trying to bully and trying to stop people from performing the uh, authentic and the traditional pieces made by renowned gurus. So, what it is, can you educate the young mass?
Okay. See, if we look at the era of 80s and all that, we've had visionaries in the art field. Take for example Guru Kelucharan Mahapatra. We've had Guru Vempati Chinnasatyam. Guru Vempati Chinnasatyam actually globalized Kuchipudi. If you go to any country in the world, you will have a student of Guruji Vempati and their students, like generation. There is already 3-4 generations, and we have Guru Birju Maharajji. So many of them who were visionaries, who sacrificed their entire life for art, and they wanted their choreographies, their work to reach far and wide. They felt it like it was an ocean which is like never ending, and the depth of the thing. So they have willingly given it with no expectations, no copyrights, nothing. They were just freely teaching. That was the kind of visionaries that we have come across. And
they were the creators. Basically, they were the creators who believed that the more you share art, the more you share vidya, it will grow more.
As a choreographer, the far and wide it reaches, that is when you get the soul satisfaction. And also it will also, okay, now I'm done with this, okay, let me go to something else, let me do one more piece. Like this, you can generate so much from your own talent.
But at the contrary, I would say that when we choreograph something, I mean, you have been choreographing so many pieces of your own, you must be knowing about the intricacies of it and the struggle behind one piece. Like, it costs huge money, it costs a lot of time and energy. So so of course one person would definitely like to have a copyright to it, thinking that yes, I have spent so much of money and this is something of my own concept. So how to balance, how to strike a balance?
If you look at my legacy, Guru Vempati Chinnasatyam, then it has passed on to my Guru Manju Bhargavi, and then it has passed on to me, and then next it is going to pass on to my students. So there is a legacy that is followed, and if I'm choreographing as a third, second generation, I should be knowing the entire framework of the bani that I'm following or the style that I'm following in depth, so that I don't distort or change the framework or the tradition of the uh, great guru, my grand guru, Vempati master. So I have to be very sure about it and only then venture into choreography. Otherwise, you can stick to being a performer. It's not necessary that everybody can be a performer or everybody can be a teacher or everybody can be a choreographer.
Choreographer,
You
yes.
have all the skills together, fine, you are okay. That doesn't determine your lows and highs. Okay, if you are a good performer and you're not a teacher, fine, no issues. If you are a good choreographer and you're not a performer, fine. See, there is nothing like this is high, this is low, and this is high, this is low. What is your competence? You build on that. If you're a good performer, stay as a good performer. There are, if you see many practitioners like Guru Malavika Sarukai or Guru Alarmil Valli, they all have stuck to their strengths, and they have very minimal students because they've spent more time in their performances, creating repertoires and so many things. So you have such artists as examples. So there are two aspects here regarding copyrights. I have learned the repertoires through a proper legacy. Okay, it has come to me with a proper legacy, and I teach it to my students. What is happening is that those students are being targeted by the kith and kin of, say, my gurujis or other. They're targeted for copyright issues. They say they record, they perform and put up that recording in YouTube or any social media. They are targeted, telling that this has a copyright issue. So how do we address this thing? They should be actually targeting strangers who are not part of the legacy or not part of this parampara, not part of this, who are from a different style, and they have taken this and performed. So those
Or maybe the YouTube learners
copyrights are meant
also.
for such activities. So such strangers, what I would say, strangers. So, but here you have a proper legacy, and there is no need for you to, curb their performing rights, which I have given to my students, because we are continuing the legacy of a grand guru. So, so what you are saying is that do not curb the performing. You own the copyrights, fine. We have absolutely no say in that. The Indian copyright law also talks about owners' copyrights. It also talks about performers' rights and broadcasting rights, which was amended. Okay, 994 it was amended. So what I am giving my students is not the copyright of Grand Guru. I'm giving them the performing rights. You perform that item, you can broadcast from the date of the performance to 25 years. You can put up in any platform. The law itself says that. So the kith and kin are not unable to understand that aspects, and then they are unnecessarily creating inconveniences by curbing the performing rights of the same parampara of
This is
students.
so nice to know, actually, that,
So the genuine
about the
art,
performing
genuine
rights.
students should not be touched, is what I was trying to convey through my post. You should have copyrights. I'm not saying you should not have. Like I have I create my own choreographies. I record it. I have the music recording rights. I have copyrighted it. I will be giving it to my student with full rights of performing and broadcasting. I don't curb them from not uploading it anyway. You can do even put the full video, put it, but with a disclaimer telling that this belongs to Kuchipudi. It's not mine, but I would say my organization, Kuchipudi Parampara Foundation. Put a disclaimer so that strangers, when they see that, they will know that, okay, this is not to be copied or reproduced without permission. So that awareness, see, we can only create awareness. I can't be
Awareness, correct.
moral policing going around and checking who's using my audios and all that. But when it comes to my notice, I have a legal right to object. So that is the whole idea of thing. But I'm not going out of the tradition of Guru Shishya this one. I want to be within the tradition and teach ethics and honesty to my students, so that they also follow that to their students, and not indulge in copying or other people's choreographies and
Correct, correct.
so that is the ethics and honesty. So you have to trust
Yes.
that. Without trust, belief, faith, how can you bring in tyranny to this? Okay, you
Mm.
trust the person to not to do that. That's it. Okay, and but you should not use force and humiliate other artists, because everybody has their own battles going on.
Yes,
Everybody
yes.
has their own scenarios and situations in lives. We don't know other artists' struggles. So we have to be compassionate, never lose that
Yes.
humanity from
And
us.
little kind. Yes, yes,
Correct.
absolutely. I agree.
Correct. You
And
can
that's
talk
how
with
the art will also grow,
and
isn't
sort
it?
it out. You can always talk.
Otherwise, art will.
Yeah. And I feel artists are the most humane. I mean, the sense, at least they can emote well, and they can show their true this one. So you can convey to it them to that, that this is not the right way. Because anyways, people who copy and perform will never come to the mainstream. You will be known as a con artist. So it is, if you have to be in the mainstream, you have to have originality. You will be recognized with your originality. Only
Yeah,
then you will have the respect and recognition. So when you know that aspect, why do you have to, indulge in unproductive activities of
correct.
going around and curbing everybody's performing rights? So that was absolutely my point of view and opinion on copyrights thing. I'm not
Thanks for
against it.
the.
I'm not against copyrights, but
No,
I'm
no,
only
but at the same time, thanks for the information, the piece of information you gave. That's quite an information for all the dancers and for the young mass also, as well as for us. I mean, I still do consider myself as young only. So it is a good piece of information, I can say. So, Didi, as we are proceeding, as the time is, going away from our hands,
okay.
so I would like to conclude our session today uh, uh, by requesting you to give a message to the young artists who are pursuing any art form. I mean, you as a mentor, you as a guide, how would you guide them?
No, I wouldn't. Okay, I don't call myself a mentor basically because you also get to learn from others. Even your students, you will get to learn new things. So I would say be open-minded and never compromise on your ethics and justice. That is very honesty. That's a very very important thing. The journey will be very very difficult. There's no the beauty of a rose is with the thorns, they say. You walk on the thorns, but the journey will be hard, tough, but never give up or compromise on your ethics, honesty and justice. That should help you reach you will get if you choose shortcuts, you will get fame, name, money, recognition, awards and everything, but that will not sustain for even after you move away from, I mean, you have go away, leave this world, your footprints are not there. You will not be able to leave your footprints. So I would always say, and you will be remembered for your righteousness than any other thing. So I would
Your
say,
name, yes.
so your work will stand by you, and I would say do not compromise on your ethics, honesty, and justice. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was a wonderful talk with you, Deepa Didi. And thanks to the viewers who are watching this. And on behalf of Navapallav, I thank all of you once again for watching us, for listening us, for supporting us, and all our young dancers and their performances. Please do keep your support on and keep watching our performances.
So much,
And see
Sarita.
you
It's such a
soon.
nice time talking to you, of course.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Didi. It was absolutely, I'm absolutely, it is a pleasure having you with me and asking you this questions. And with a piece of information, I'm enriched today again. So thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much.